Tom had never liked jungles, but this jungle on the alien planet, Viridia 9, was worse than anything he had seen before. It was wild, dark, and full of sounds he didn't understand. Thick green leaves blocked the sunlight, and the air smelled like wet soil and strange flowers. He walked slowly, holding his small scanner in one hand and a knife in the other. He wasn't here for fun. He was here on a mission to find lost alien tech, but deep in his heart he already felt like something was wrong. The villagers had warned him. "Don't go into that jungle," one old man had said. "People go in and don't come out." Tom didn't believe in ghost stories, but now every step he took made him think about those words. Suddenly, the scanner stopped beeping. The signal was lost. Tom hit the screen, trying to make it work again. Nothing, only silence. Then it happened, a scream high, sharp, and full of fear. It cut through the thick air like a knife. Tom froze. He looked around, trying to find where it came from. The scream came again, this time louder. Someone or something was in trouble. Without thinking, Tom ran. Branches hit his face. Vines pulled at his legs, but he kept running. He followed the sound, heart beating fast. He didn't care about the mission anymore. He just needed to find the source of that scream. After a few minutes, he stopped behind a big tree. What he saw made his breath stop. There was a clearing in the jungle. In the center, a large fire burned. Around the fire stood strange figures, tall, masked, covered in paint and feathers. They looked tribal, primitive, and dangerous. They were chanting in a language Tom couldn't understand, and above the fire, a girl, an alien girl. She was tied to a wooden frame, her arms stretched out, her silver skin glowing in the firelight. She looked unconscious, but then her head moved slightly. She was alive. Tom's stomach turned. What was going on here? Was this a ritual? A sacrifice? He crouched lower, hiding behind the thick bushes. His hands shook. He didn't know this planet had native tribes. This wasn't in any report. And why would they tie up a girl like that? One of the masked figures stepped forward. He was taller than the rest. With a crown made of bones and red feathers, in his hand was a long curved knife. Tom's eyes widened. This was bad. This was very bad. He had two choices: run away and report it, or act now and try to save her. But running would take too long, and she would be dead by then. He looked around, searching for a weapon. On the ground nearby was a small, sharp rock. Not much, but maybe enough to cause a distraction. The chief raised the knife high. The chanting grew louder. The flames danced under the girl, and her body twisted in pain. Time was running out. Tom took a deep breath. He threw the rock with all his strength. It hit the chief's arm. The knife slipped from his hand and fell to the ground. The chanting stopped. The masked figures looked around in confusion. The chief growled and picked up the knife. But the moment was broken. Tom used it. He ran into the clearing, jumped over a log, and reached the wooden frame. The alien girl opened her eyes for a second, then closed them again. Tom cut the ropes quickly with his knife. The crowd started shouting, but he didn't stop. He picked her up in his arms and ran. Spears flew past him. One cut his shoulder, but he kept going. He didn't stop until the firelight was far behind him. Back in the jungle, the trees closed around them again, hiding them from sight. He found a small cave and went inside, breathing hard. He placed the girl gently on the ground. She was breathing, but barely. Her silver hair was wet with sweat, her body shaking. Tom sat beside her, trying to think. What had he just done? Who was she? And what kind of world had he stepped into? Outside, the jungle was quiet again, but Tom knew this was just the beginning. The jungle had screamed, and now it was awake. Tom's heart wouldn't slow down. He could still hear the sound of chanting in his ears. The jungle around him was dark and breathing, like a living creature inside the small cave. The air felt heavy and wet. He looked down at the alien girl lying on the stone floor, her skin shining faintly under the dim light. She looked peaceful now, but Tom knew it wouldn't last. He didn't even know who she was or why the tribe wanted her dead. He just knew she was different in a way that scared the people of this planet. Tom tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve and wrapped it around her arm. He noticed strange marks glowing faintly on her skin, symbols he had never seen before. They pulsed like they were alive, he whispered. "What are you?" But she didn't answer. She was too weak to speak. He heard something outside. Leaves rustling, voices. The tribe was searching for them. Tom quickly turned off his scanner and pressed himself against the wall. Holding his breath, the sounds came closer, then stopped. He waited. Minutes passed like hours. Then the footsteps faded away. Tom sighed softly, relief washing over him. He looked back at the girl. Her eyes were open now, glowing faintly blue. She looked at him without fear. Her lips moved, and a soft voice came out. "Why, did you help me?" Tom blinked, surprised she could speak English. "I couldn't let them kill you," he said quietly. "You shouldn't have," she whispered. "Now they will come for you too." Her voice was weak but full of warning. Tom frowned. "Who are they?" "Those people, what do they want from you?" She turned her head slowly, her gaze distant. "They think I am cursed," she said, "but I am not a curse. I am a secret they fear." Tom didn't understand. He wanted to ask more, but she closed her eyes again. Exhausted, he looked around the cave. Strange symbols were carved into the walls. Spirals, eyes and stars, old writing, ancient, maybe alien. Tom ran his hand over one of the carvings and it glowed faintly under his touch. The light moved like water flowing across the wall. He stepped back, shocked. "What is this place?" he whispered. The girl answered softly, "A grave." Before he could ask what she meant, a loud horn echoed through the jungle. Tom's blood ran cold. The tribe had found their trail. He moved to the cave entrance and saw flickering lights in the distance, torches. They were coming fast, dozens of them, maybe more. Tom turned back to the girl. "Can you walk?" She tried to stand, but her legs shook. He helped her up, wrapping her arm around his shoulder. "We have to move," he said, but before they could step out, she stopped and looked back at the glowing wall. Her expression changed, fear mixed with sadness. "They started it here," she whispered. "The ritual, the fire, the curse, it all began here." Tom didn't know what she meant, but he didn't have time to think. The chanting had started again outside. Louder, closer, the same rhythm he heard before. The ritual was beginning again, but this time it wasn't her they wanted. Tom peeked outside and saw the tribe forming a circle near the fire pit they had escaped from. He counted at least 20 of them. The chief stood in the center, his mask shining with blood-red paint. He was holding something, Tom's backpack. They must have found the spot where he dropped it. The chief raised it high and shouted something to the sky. Then, one of the warriors brought forward a new victim, a young boy. Tom's stomach twisted. They were going to continue the ritual, with someone else this time. The girl beside him suddenly pushed herself away. Her eyes were wide, glowing brighter. "They're calling the jungle," she said, her voice trembling. "If they finish the chant, everything will die." Tom grabbed her arm. "What do you mean, everything?" She looked at him, terrified. "The jungle is alive, it listens, it hungers," she said. "The ritual feeds it blood." Tom didn't want to believe it. But deep inside, he knew she wasn't lying. The forest had always felt strange, like it was watching. Now, even the trees seemed to move slightly in the firelight. He knew he couldn't let the ritual finish. He couldn't just stand there. Not after what he saw. He picked up his knife again, his hands shaking. "Stay here," he told her. But she grabbed his wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "If you go out there, you die," she said. Tom met her eyes. "If I stay here, that boy dies." For a moment, she said nothing, then nodded slowly. A tear rolled down her cheek. "Glowing like liquid light," she whispered. "The fire listens, throw it to the ground." Tom didn't understand, but he trusted her. He waited for the right moment. When the chief raised his knife again, Tom ran out from the shadows. The crowd shouted, spears pointed at him. But Tom didn't stop. He reached the fire and kicked it over. Flames spread into the grass. Sparks flew into the air. The chanting broke, and confusion exploded. Warriors ran. Shouting and screaming, the ritual was broken. The alien girl ran toward him, dragging her weak legs through the smoke. The sky cracked with lightning and the earth began to shake. The jungle roared, trees bent as if alive, leaves trembling like they were whispering. The fire turned blue, and strange symbols appeared in the air. Tom grabbed the girl's hand and shouted, "Run!" Together they ran into the forest again behind them. The chief screamed in rage as the fire swallowed the altar. The ritual had begun, but this time it was out of anyone's control. The jungle had awakened and it wanted them both. The fire behind them was still burning blue. The ground shook with every step Tom took. He held Lyra tightly in his arms as he ran. Branches scratched his face and roots tried to trip him, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The tribe was behind them and the jungle was alive. Lyra coughed in his arms, her voice weak. "You should leave me," she whispered. I'm the reason they're chasing us. Tom shook his head, breathing hard. No, he said. We run together. The jungle roared around them like it was angry. The leaves shook even though there was no wind. The trees creaked like old bones. Something had changed. Something was watching. Behind them, tribal horns blew. They had found the fire destroyed, the ritual broken. Now they wanted blood, and Tom had stolen their sacrifice. He found a steep hill and climbed it fast, holding Lyra close. At the top, he saw a narrow path hidden behind thick leaves. He pushed through, almost falling. At the end of the path, there was a cave, smaller than the first one, but deep. He slipped inside and placed Lyra down on the cold stone floor. She was shivering, glowing faintly again. Her skin looked like moonlight, beautiful and strange. Tom took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. She looked up at him with tired eyes. You're not like the others, she whispered. Tom sat beside her, still breathing fast. Others? He asked. She nodded. The humans I knew. They only wanted my power. Tom frowned. What power? Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. My body is part of this jungle, she said slowly. They mixed my blood with the forest. They wanted me to control it. Tom leaned forward, listening closely. But I couldn't. The jungle doesn't want to be controlled. Suddenly, they heard a noise outside the cave, a soft growl, low and hungry. Tom jumped to his feet, holding his knife. From the darkness stepped a creature, not human, not animal. Its eyes glowed green and its body was covered in moss and bark. It moved like a shadow, silent but deadly. Lyra stood slowly. Her legs still weak, she raised her hand. And the creature stopped. It tilted its head, looking at her. Then it turned and ran into the jungle. Disappearing in the trees, Tom stared. What did you do? Lyra lowered her hand, her face pale. It was part of the jungle, she said. It listens to me. Sometimes Tom didn't know what to say. Everything was happening too fast. First fire, then magic, now forest monsters. And yet somehow he trusted her. More than anyone he had met in years. He looked at her glowing arms, the symbols dancing under her skin. What are those? He asked. She looked at them with sad eyes. Memories, she whispered. Not mine, but they live inside me. Tom sat beside her again, watching the cave entrance. I don't understand, he said. Why would anyone do this to you? Lyra looked away, her voice soft and broken. They wanted a key, she said, a living key to unlock the heart of the jungle. Before Tom could ask more, a loud horn sounded again. Closer now, the tribe had found their trail. Tom stood up, ready to run, but Lyra shook her head. We can't keep running, she said. They'll find us again and again. Tom looked around, desperate. What do we do then? She touched the wall of the cave and it glowed. A secret door opened at the back, made of stone and light. We go there, she said, to the temple ruins. Tom hesitated. What's in there? She met his eyes. Answers. And danger. Tom helped her walk, and they stepped into the glowing path. The walls were smooth and warm, like they were breathing. Strange lights floated around them. Like glowing insects, the tunnel led deeper and deeper. Tom felt like he was walking into another world. They reached a wide chamber covered in symbols and statues. In the middle was a pool of water, shining with blue light. Lyra knelt beside it, touching the surface. A vision appeared, not just in the water, but in their minds. They saw people in white suits, scientists, mixing blood with green liquid. They saw Lyra as a child crying inside a glass room. They saw the jungle burning, and then fighting back. Tom pulled back, shaking. Is that real? Lyra nodded, tears in her eyes. That's what they did to me. What I am. Tom clenched his fist, anger rising. They turned you into a weapon. She nodded slowly. And the tribe? They think killing me will stop the jungle's rage. Tom looked back toward the cave tunnel. He heard the footsteps coming again. They didn't have much time. He turned to Lyra. We're not going to die here, he said. We're going to stop this. She looked up at him, surprised, but how? Tom smiled faintly. We stop running, he said. And we fight back. Behind them, the jungle whispered. Ahead of them, the truth waited, and above them, the fire still burned in the sky. The glowing water behind them slowly dimmed. The temple was quiet now. Like it had finished telling its story, Tom stood frozen, his heart still racing from the strange visions. Beside him, Lyra looked pale, her hands shaking, but her eyes, They were glowing brighter than ever. She turned away from the pool, her voice soft but clear. "They used me," she said. "They didn't ask. They didn't care." Tom stepped closer. "Those people in white suits, were they humans?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, from Earth," she whispered. "They came here years ago, found the jungle, saw the power, and wanted to control it." Tom clenched his fists. He had heard about secret labs and dark science missions, but he never thought he'd meet someone who lived through it. Someone they changed. Lyra stepped to the wall, touching the carvings. "They said I was special," she continued. "That I could speak to the forest, feel it, command it." She turned to face him. "But I couldn't. Not the way they wanted." She looked down at her arms, where glowing patterns moved like slow fire under her skin. "Instead, the jungle bonded with me," she said. Like it chose me. Tom didn't speak. He just watched her. She wasn't just an alien girl anymore. She was something more, connected to this planet in ways he didn't understand. She was made from its roots. Its storms, its silence. She wasn't normal. She was alive in a different way. Suddenly, the floor shook slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Tom grabbed her arm. "Earthquake." Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. "No," she said. "The jungle is reacting again. It's angry." Tom's eyes narrowed. "Angry at who?" She looked at him, then toward the cave entrance. "At them." Tribal horns echoed in the distance again. Drums now, a slow, steady beat. Getting closer, Tom sighed. "They never stop, do they?" Lyra shook her head. "No, they think if I die, everything will go back to normal." Tom looked at her carefully. "But if they kill you, what happens?" She was quiet for a long time, then she said, "I don't know." Her voice trembled a little. "I've never died before," she added with a sad smile. Tom couldn't help it. He laughed just once. It felt strange in a place like this, but it felt human. Lyra looked at him with surprise, then smiled too, just a little, but the moment was short. The ground shook again, harder this time. A crack split across the far wall. Tom helped Lyra up. "We need to move," he said. Lyra touched the carvings again, and a new door opened, this one made of black stone. They stepped through into a narrow tunnel. The air was cold and the walls were wet. The path went deeper, underground. Tom kept his knife in his hand, ready for anything. Lyra walked beside him now, stronger. Her steps were still light, but more steady, she said. "There's something at the end of this path." Tom looked at her. "What is it?" She didn't answer right away, then she said, "Something they left behind." Before they ran away, the tunnel opened into a chamber filled with light. Floating blue crystals hung from the ceiling. Glowing softly at the center was a large table. Made of glass and stone, on it lay a box, silver and round, with wires and tubes on the sides. Tom stepped closer. "What is that?" Lyra didn't answer. She walked straight to the box and placed her hand on it. The box opened slowly with a soft hiss. Inside was a small, beating orb or pulsing like a heart. Tom stepped back. "That thing's alive," Lyra nodded. "It's called a seed core," Tom asked. "What does it do?" She replied, "It grows new forests." "Or destroys them." Tom stared at it. "Why would they make something like that?" Lyra looked at the glowing orb, her face unreadable. "They didn't make it," she said. "They stole it from the planet's core." The air grew colder. The chamber lights dimmed. Tom felt the hairs on his arms rise. Behind them, the drums had stopped. Everything was quiet again. Too quiet. Lyra turned to Tom. "If they find this, they'll use it to burn the jungle down." Tom took a deep breath. "Then we can't let them." She looked at him with sad eyes. "Protecting it means fighting more than just the tribe," she said. "It means standing against the ones who made me." Tom understood now. This wasn't just about escape, it was about truth. About saving something ancient, something alive. And about saving Lyra. Not from the tribe, but from the ones who created her and left her behind. He walked to the seed core and gently closed the lid, then looked at her. "What do we do next?" Lyra stared at the box, then whispered, "We wake the forest." The chamber walls lit up with green light. The floor began to move, vines curling up from the cracks. And the jungle, the real jungle, answered her call. The girl they wanted to burn was now the one calling the fire. The ground trembled under Tom's boots. Vines rose from the cracked floor like snakes waking from sleep. The chamber was alive. Not with machines or lights, but with the power of the jungle itself. Lyra stood at the center, her eyes glowing like green fire, her hair floating slightly in the air as if caught in an invisible breeze. Tom had seen many strange things in space, but nothing like this. The jungle was answering her. Not with words, but with movement. The ground was breathing. The walls whispering. Lyra turned to him slowly. "It has started," she said softly. Tom stepped closer. "What started?" She didn't blink. The jungle remembers its pain. Suddenly, the vines dropped back down and silence returned. A cold, thick silence. Tom swallowed hard. "Is it over?" Lyra shook her head. "No, it's waiting." Tom grabbed his backpack, slinging it over his shoulder. "We need to leave this place," he said. Lyra nodded, and together they walked back through the stone tunnel. But when they reached the exit, the jungle was no longer the same. The trees had changed. Their leaves were black, and their bark was bleeding red sap. The air smelled like ash, smoke curled through the branches, and the sky had turned a strange yellow. Tom stared, shocked. "It looks like a battlefield." Lyra stepped forward, eyes wide. "The jungle is angry," she said. "It's punishing everything, from the shadows." Low growls echoed. Tom spun around, knife ready. But the sound came from all sides. Figures moved between the trees. Tall, thin, glowing green eyes. They were made of bark, moss, and bone, not alive, not dead. The jungle had created them, Lyra gasped. "They are the guardians," Tom whispered. "Are they with us?" She didn't answer. The first one stepped into view, its fingers sharp like claws, its body creaking with every step. Tom stepped back. "That's a no," the creature lunged. Tom grabbed Lyra and ran. Branches swung at them like arms, trying to grab their clothes. Roots lifted from the ground, tripping their steps. The jungle had turned into a trap. Tom's lungs burned as he pushed forward. He had no idea where he was going. Every direction looked the same. Lyra held his hand tightly, her breath quick and shallow. "I can't control it," she cried. "It's too angry." Behind them, the forest roared. It was no longer a place of trees and flowers. It was a storm, a beast, a curse. Tom saw a tall rock wall ahead, smooth and black. It looked ancient, untouched by the chaos. He pulled Lyra toward it. Maybe they could hide or find another path. They reached the wall, but there was no cave, no door. Tom turned around, back against the stone. Knife shaking in his grip, Lyra leaned on him, her strength fading. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "This is my fault." Tom looked down at her. "No," he said. "You didn't ask for this." The first guardian appeared through the smoke. Then another and another. They surrounded the two, slow and silent. Tom held the knife tighter. He knew he couldn't win, but he wouldn't let her go. Suddenly, the ground cracked. Green light burst through the soil like lightning. The guardians froze, then backed away slowly. The light grew brighter, forming a circle around Tom and Lyra. Then a voice echoed, deep, ancient. Almost not a voice at all. "Enough," it said. The guardians vanished into the trees. The smoke lifted slightly. The jungle fell silent again. Tom was shaking. He looked at Lyra, who stared at the ground in awe. "What was that?" he asked. She touched the light with her hand. "It was the heart," she said. "The jungle's heart. It protected us," Tom exhaled, the tension in his chest easing. "But why?" Lyra looked up at him. "Because you chose to protect me, not use me." Tom didn't know what to say. All he knew was they were still alive. But this wasn't over. The jungle was calm for now, but the tribe was still out there, and the humans who created Lyra might be watching. Waiting, Lyra slowly stood on her own, stronger again. "There's a place we need to reach," she said. "A tower in the center of the forest." Tom raised an eyebrow. "What's in the tower?" She looked at him with fire in her eyes. "The truth and the weapon to end this." He nodded. "Then let's go." They stepped out of the circle of light. The jungle whispered behind them. Leaves trembled softly, vines swayed gently, and somewhere deep in the forest, the tower waited, and tall, broken, and full of secrets. The jungle was not just a place anymore. It was watching, thinking, and judging, and the path ahead was full of death. But Tom didn't care. He had already made his choice. He would fight, he would protect, even in the heart of the jungle of death. The jungle grew quieter as Tom and Lyra moved deeper into its heart. The wind had stopped, the animals were gone, and the sky was now a dull green. Tom could feel it in his chest, a weight that wasn't just fear. It was like the air itself was waiting for something. Lyra walked ahead of him now, steady and silent. Her glowing marks lit the path like small lamps. She didn't speak, but Tom could see the tension in her shoulders. She knew where they were going, and she knew what they would find. "What is this tower, really?" Tom asked softly. Lyra looked over her shoulder, her voice just above a whisper. "It was the first lab," she said. "The place where I was born." Tom stopped, surprised. "You were made here?" Lyra nodded, her face calm but her eyes full of pain. "Yes, this jungle raised me, but not with love," she said. "It grew me like a weapon." They pushed through thick vines until they saw it. The tower, tall and broken, stood in the middle of a deep clearing. Its metal sides were rusted and covered in moss. Wires hung like spiderwebs, and shattered windows looked like blind eyes. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice shaking now. Tom felt a chill crawl down his back. The jungle around the tower was too still, like even nature didn't want to go near it. They walked through the main doors in half hanging off their hinges. Inside was darkness and silence. Then lights flickered on, one by one. Faded white lights in the ceiling blinked to life, and soft humming filled the air. Tom looked around, shocked. "This place still has power?" Lyra didn't answer. Her hand moved across the wall, and a hidden panel slid open. Inside was a staircase, leading downward into the earth. They walked down slowly, the walls growing cleaner the deeper they went. No moss, no dust, just smooth silver metal and strange lights. Tom saw writing on the walls, names, numbers, diagrams. But one word appeared again and again. "Project Echo, what's Project Echo?" he asked. Lyra answered in a whisper, "That's me." At the bottom of the stairs was a round room, glowing softly blue. In the center was a tall crystal stone, shaped like a tear, floating just above a circular platform. It pulsed gently like it was breathing. Lyra stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. "The memory stone," she said. Tom looked at her, confused. "What does it do?" She turned to him. "It remembers everything," she said. "All the pain, all the voices, all the truth they tried to bury." She touched the stone, and the room changed. Holograms lit the air, images spinning around them. A young Lyra inside a glass tube, sleeping while wires ran through her arms. Doctors in white coats writing notes. Watching her like a machine, a voice echoed through the room. "Test subject Echo responds well to forest DNA, but side effects remain unstable." Tom watched in silence. Fists clenched, he saw another memory. A child crying in a dark room, screaming for help. The doors never opened. The voice returned. "Echo shows signs of emotional bonding. Terminate before contamination." Lyra stepped back, tears in her eyes. "I thought they were my family," she whispered. "But I was just an experiment." Tom walked up beside her and placed his hand on the stone too. A new vision appeared, a jungle burning, tribes running, machines cutting trees, and then Lyra standing alone, her eyes glowing white. The jungle rising behind her like a wall of roots and flame. "They made you powerful," Tom said quietly. Lyra nodded. "Too powerful." She looked at him. "The jungle doesn't want me dead, it wants me back." Tom blinked. "Back? What do you mean?" She touched her chest. "It's calling me home." Tom shook his head. "You're not just part of the jungle, Lyra. You're more than that." She gave him a small, broken smile. "Then why do I feel like a monster?" Tom stepped closer. "Because they made you feel that way," he said. "But you're not." Suddenly, the lights flickered, the tower trembled. A loud rumble echoed above them. Tom turned to the door. "They're here," he said. Lyra nodded. "The tribe, maybe more." The memory stone pulsed again. Faster this time. Lyra looked at it and whispered, "There's one last memory." She touched the stone again, and a figure appeared, different from the others, older, kind eyes, long gray coat. "Echo," the voice said softly. "If you're seeing this, then you survived." Tom and Lyra stared as the man continued. "I tried to stop them, but I was too late," he said. "You're not just a weapon, you're a key, a bridge between worlds, between life and nature." The image faded, silence returned. Lyra stood still, breathing slowly. "A bridge," she repeated. Tom looked at her. "Then maybe you're the only one who can stop this war." Above them, the footsteps came closer. The ground shook again. The jungle was rising, and now it was time for the final choice, to run, or to become what she was meant to be. The ground trembled as footsteps echoed above. The enemies were coming, and they were close. Tom stood at the base of the tower, holding his breath. The jungle outside growled like a storm, and beside him stood Lyra, no longer just a girl, no longer just an experiment. She was ready not to run, but to face everything. "They're almost here," Tom whispered. Lyra nodded, her hands glowing softly with green light. "This time, I won't hide," she said, her voice calm. The room around them lit up as the memory stone pulsed one final time. Tom turned to her. "What will you do?" Lyra looked at the glowing platform beneath her feet. "I'm going to become one with the jungle," she said. "The way I was meant to." Tom stepped forward, confused and afraid. "Will that kill you?" She looked at him with a sad smile. "I don't know." Outside, a loud crash shook the tower walls. The tribe had broken through the outer shell. The fire they carried lit the windows with a red glow. They were here to end her once and for all. Lyra stepped onto the platform, her hair lifting in the energy swirling around her. She placed her hand on the memory stone, and it began to rise slowly into the air. Roots burst from the floor. Wrapping gently around her legs, the platform lifted. Green lightning crackling in the air, Tom shouted, "Lyra!" She turned to look at him one last time, her eyes glowing bright as suns. "Thank you for seeing me as more than a monster," she whispered. Then her body lit up, green, gold, and silver, as the energy flowed through her. The walls of the tower cracked, vines breaking in, wrapping around the broken glass and metal. Outside, the jungle screamed, not in pain, but in awakening. The fire the tribe brought was swallowed by roots. The warriors screamed and ran, dropping their weapons. The sky turned from gray to green, and from the center of it all, light shot into the sky like a beacon. Tom covered his eyes, the power blinding. The floor beneath him shook like a beating heart. Then everything went silent, completely silent when Tom opened his eyes. The tower was gone. All that remained was a circle of glowing grass and a soft breeze. He stood slowly, heart pounding. "Lyra?" He called out, no answer. He turned in every direction. The jungle around him was bright, peaceful, new. The trees no longer bled. The roots no longer crept. The guardians were gone, even the air felt clean. But Lyra was not there. He fell to his knees. Not knowing whether to cry or scream, she had saved everything, and vanished. But then something moved behind him. He turned fast, knife in hand. It was a child, alien, silver-skinned like Lyra, eyes wide and bright. She looked at Tom and smiled. "She's sleeping," the child said. "But she's still here." Tom blinked, shocked. "Who are you?" The girl pointed to the trees. "The jungle made me." "From her," she whispered. Tom looked again. He noticed flowers blooming where Lyra once stood. And from the tallest tree nearby, a vine reached down and gently brushed his shoulder. Tom understood she hadn't died. She had become something more. Not just a girl, not just an experiment, but part of the world she saved forever. He stood up, feeling her presence in the wind, in the leaves, in the heartbeat of the earth, and the child stood beside him. "What now?" he asked quietly. The girl smiled. She said, "You'll know." Tom looked at the rising sun through the trees. He didn't have a ship or a mission anymore. He had a promise to keep, a jungle to protect, and a story to tell of a girl they tried to burn, a girl they called cursed but who became light. The jungle had screamed once, but now it sang, and deep within its roots, she was still there, the girl in the fire, the girl who saved everything, the girl who became the forest. And Tom, he stayed, not to fight, not to run, but to live, and to guard what she left behind. Because some heroes don't leave statues, they leave green, growing worlds, and voices that whisper in the wind.